Can you really make a quilt in 5 minutes? Is it even possible? I asked AI to give me a script, a title, and a description for a video that could go viral. And this is what I got. How to make a quilt in 5 minutes. I normally measure how much time it takes to make a quilt in hours and not in minutes, but we'll see where it goes, see what they're expecting. Description. In this video, we'll show you how to make a beautiful quilt in just 5 minutes. You don't need any special skills or equipment, just a few simple materials and some creativity, okay? We'll guide you through the process step by step, from selecting the fabric to stitching it all together. Whether you're a seasoned quilter or a complete beginner, you'll love this quick and easy project. So grab your scissors and let's get started. Scissors, okay? Yeah, so AI thinks that I can make a quilt in 5 minutes, so challenge accepted. Let's see if I can make a quilt in just 5 minutes. Oh, this is crazy. But before we can get started, we need to go over the directions. I'll read the script and then we'll just make a plan and then we can go ahead and make that quilt in 5 minutes. Okay, so here's the script. Introduction. Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. Today we're going to show you how to make a beautiful quilt in just 5 minutes. That's right, 5 minutes. So if you're short on time but still want to create something amazing, this video is for you. Step 1. Select your fabric. You can use any fabric you like, but we recommend choosing something soft and cozy like flannel or fleece. Cut your fabric into 5-inch squares. So there's more than one square, okay? Step 2. Arrange your squares. Lay out your squares in a pattern that you like. You can make it as simple or as complex as you want. Step 3. Sew your squares together. Using a sewing machine or needle and thread, stitch your squares together in rows. Then stitch your rows together to create your quilt top. We have rows in a 5-minute quilt. Step 4. Add batting and backing. Cut a piece of batting and backing to the same size as your quilt top. Lay the batting on the bottom, then the backing, and finally the quilt top. What? Okay, I don't think you lay the batting on the bottom if you're going to start quilting it, but okay. Step 5, quilt it. Using a sewing machine or needle and thread, quilt your layers together. You can do this in any pattern you like. We recommend something simple like straight lines or a grid. Conclusion. There you have it. A beautiful quilt in just 5 minutes. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you'll give it a try. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more fun and easy DIY projects. Thanks for watching. Okay, I'm going to tell you the truth here. There's no way that you can make a quilt in 5 minutes. So many different patterns that you can pick from. So that's going to take me more than 5 minutes just to pick the pattern. It'll take me more than 5 minutes just to pick the fabric. Then you cut the squares. So when you're cutting this fabric into 5-inch squares, I recommend you just buy some charm squares instead, because if you are trying to make a quilt in 5 minutes, you don't have time to cut. And then arrange your squares. If it's only 4 squares, I don't think you can make it very complex, but I guess you could alternate the squares light and dark, or you could just combine the squares in whatever way you want. I think a nice simple 4-patch is the best I can do in a 5-minute setting. Sew your squares together using your sewing machine or needle and thread. I'm going to use a sewing machine because that's faster. Sew the squares in rows and then stitch the rows together to create your quilt top. Okay, I can do that. I'll make a 4-patch quilt. Add backing and batting. Cut a piece of backing and backing the same size as your quilt top. I actually recommend that your batting and your backing be a little bit larger than your quilt top. And generally you trim off the batting and the backing after you quilt it. I guess if we're going to just make a simple 4-patch, it should be okay if we cut it to the same exact size. Batting on the bottom, then the backing, and finally the quilt top. Okay, don't do it in that order. If this layering process will work if you are going to sew around the edges to finish off the edges and then turning the quilt right side out. It helps hide all the raw edges, and so it's not an incorrect order, but you do have to be careful about putting the quilt top and the backing right sides together so that you can turn, so that they'll be in the right order when you turn it right side out. Step 5, quilt it. Using a sewing machine or needle and thread, quilt the layers together. Yeah, that would work. A sewing machine would be much faster than needle and thread, especially if you only have 5 minutes. So I'm going to use a sewing machine. And it says there you have it, a beautiful quilt in just 5 minutes. So it does not say anything about finishing off the edges. So I think maybe they're thinking that the quilting is going to be sufficient for the edges. So I'll just make sure that I make a little quilting stitch on the outside of the quilt, on the outside edges, just to help secure it a little bit more. Step 5, quilt it. Uh-oh, you can't quilt before you turn it right side out. Alright, so we're not going to follow the directions in this pattern because if we add the batting to the bottom and quilt it, the batting is going to be on the bottom. And my backing is going to be completely wasted in the inside of the quilt. So do as I do, not as I say. I think that's the first time I've ever said that before, but do as I do, not as I say. Okay, so we have 4 charm squares together, and finding fabric that'll be pretty enough to use in a 5-minute quilt, but not so pretty that I'm not willing to give it up for a 5-minute quilt. That didn't take any time at all. They're already here, so don't worry about that. I'm curious to know, what was the fastest quilt that you ever made? Have you ever made a quilt in 5 minutes? I might be the very first person who's ever tried it. I might be the first person who's ever managed to make a quilt in just 5 minutes. If I manage to make a quilt in 5 minutes. So we'll go ahead and get started. 5 minutes. We'll get this timer ready and we'll get started. exactly on time. So there we have it, a beautiful quilt made in 5 minutes. It's got quilted diagonally and I'll say one around the edges. So there you have it, a beautiful quilt made in exactly 5 minutes. But yes, it is possible to make a quilt in 5 minutes, and I may be the first person who ever did that. So what do you think? Do you think I met the challenge, or was it cheating to use charm squares? And is it really a quilt if the edges aren't bound? Since this is an AI challenge, I asked AI to tell me what to write on the certificate. It says, Certificate of Recognition. The following award is given to Shalina Vergi in recognition of the extraordinary achievement of creating the fastest quilt ever made. This exceptional feat was accomplished in an astonishing 5 minutes on August 13th, 2024. This remarkable accomplishment places Shalina Vergi in the annals of history as a true pioneer in the world of quilting. I'm a pioneer. It said how to make a quilt in 5 minutes. I have to admit that it took me more than 5 minutes just to stop laughing. I have never finished a quilt in 5 minutes. Thank you for joining me and watching me struggle to make a quilt in just 5 minutes. I appreciate all of your support. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Let me know if you think that I earned this certificate.